Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the East Stroudsburg Area School District Board of Education Special Meeting, July 8th, 2020, after 7 p.m. We appreciate that you've been waiting with us here. We'll start with a call to order. And Pledge of Allegiance. There we go. Yep.
Please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We'll start now with roll call.
Okay, George Andrews. Is he on?
Here.
Okay. Rebecca Bear,
Present.
Dr. Damari Bonilla,
Present.
Larry Diamond,
Unmute yourself, George. I mean, not Larry. Unmute yourself.
Present.
okay. Sharon Glasgow,
Present.
Debbie Kulik, no. Okay, Wayne Roner,
Here.
Rich Lamus,
Here.
Lisa Van Wy.
Here.
8 present.
I'm sure that Debbie will be with us at some point. She's calling me now, actually, so Larry, can you take this? All right, so first of all, folks, thank you very much for attending this meeting. If you are on, please mute yourself until we recognize you to speak. Our board members will be on most of the time,
Okay.
but as you'll hear, there's some feedback. This meeting is specifically and explicitly
Hang on, he's coming
for
down.
the return to school plan. And so any comments that are addressed tonight need to be addressed towards the return to school plan. We appreciate your attention to this. I'll accept a motion to adopt the agenda.
Rebecca, motion to adopt the agenda.
Brown, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda.
Excuse me, Rich, but it's very difficult to hear you.
Okay.
Aye.
I'm
sorry.
I'm sorry. We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And suspension of rules. All right, suspension of rules. A motion to suspend the rules of the day to permit discussion of budgetary items to be presented by the administration or members of the board and the public concerning review of the return to school plan without the necessity of a motion or second being previously made. I need a motion.
So moved, Lisa.
Second, Damari.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Presentation of information by the administration. Again, I'm going to ask everyone to mute their accounts, please. Information by the administration. Again, I'm going to ask everyone to mute their accounts, please.
Kaylin.
Rich? Okay, thank you. So this evening before the board, the administration is looking for guidance and direction from the board regarding 3 items as we continue to assess and analyze the reopening of our schools on August 31st. The information that I presented over the past several weeks to the board focuses on these 3 issues or these 3 items for discussion with respect to the number of students that the board would direct the administration to allow on our school buses, the number of students the board would direct the administration to allow up to in our classrooms, and of course, whether all students or only partial students would return to school on August 31st. I would just share an important piece to those discussions, and an important part of that information is any reduction in the number of students on a bus or any reduction in the number of students in the classroom may in fact inform the decision regarding our return to school, or all students return to school. So the information that's been presented to begin the conversation is based on guidance that I've shared with the board from the Bucks County Department of Health, as well as the CDC, regarding both number of students on a bus, as well as number of students in the classroom. It's clear by those numbers that have been presented by both of those organizations that the social distancing idea of 6 feet is not possible. So in each of those situations that have been presented by Bucks County Department of Health or the CDC regarding number of students, including the instructor in the classroom, it's clearly obvious that our classroom spaces, as well as our school bus spaces, would not permit a 6-foot social distancing in those capacities has been presented. So that's an important distinction. I know that's something that's a concern, obviously, but anything less than those numbers, again, would require an abbreviated school day or an alternating school day in order to bring less students in our schools at the same time.
Dr. Riker, but isn't if we do 3 feet, we get an 80% coverage or reduction instead of going to 6 feet? You know what the CDC says?
George, if you were addressing me, I could not hear one word you said.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I said, didn't the CDC also say if we do a 3 foot or 1 meter separation, we get 80% of the reduction instead of the 100%? So that's,
I have read a number of articles that refer to a 3-foot distancing. So I haven't seen the CDC specifically speak to that, but there are many documents out there that do address a distance of 3 feet as another number to use.
it's not quite as good as the 6 feet, of course, but the 3 feet I would think would be well within the range. And young kids under 17 or under 15 are much likely to get the virus anyhow. So we're really talking a mute point on some of this stuff.
I don't think so. I disagree.
Okay, I think the first thing is we need to let Dr. Riker finish out, and then we'll address any questions or comments after that. Okay, thank you.
That's all I have.
So much for that.
I don't know for the volumes of data, but I think I've tried to share that over the past several weeks with the board, and focusing simply on these 3 questions before you this evening. I would just echo that these do not include the daily operation, obviously, items that we would be discussing as part of our health and safety plan that would be presented to the board at the July 20th meeting. So items such as temperature checks, masks, which of course that's changing on a weekly basis from the Secretary of Health, and how we would feed students and those types of things, and our cleaning and disinfecting, sanitizing processes. All of those would be part of our discussions leading up to the July 20th presentation of the health and safety plan that the district is required to adopt and submit to the Department of Education. So those items are really not part of this evening's conversation. We just need direction as an administration from the board so that our building leaders can move into our planning, and obviously our community members have an understanding of what that direction may be.
Can you review the 3 scenarios that you presented so the public has a little bit more idea of what they are?
Yeah, there's like 5 or 6.
Are you asking about instructional options?
Well, I think before we do the options, we have.
George, you muted yourself. We can't hear you.
To make a decision, and we were also invited to go in and ask him questions prior to this meeting. We are here to give the administration, as I understand it, the direction, the board senses of how they want to proceed. And we're here to give that direction to them with these 3 items that are on this agenda. And they will come back to us with some sort of solution, I'm assuming, and the answers to possibly what public is gonna talk about and the questions they have. We have a big folder here. So I'm sure at some point, once we give direction, they're gonna do their work and then come back to that before we approve it at the next board meeting. That's how I understood it. My 2 cents.
So here's what I'm expecting what we're going to do. If board specifically on that, I recommend that you state your piece, if you will. Participation from the public. Then you'll start on these items below. Go, Lisa.
I'm in favor of stand by the Secretary of Education, Mr. Boss, that we need to open schools. It is good for.
You're muted.
I can't hear.
Shall I start over? Yes. Yikes. Okay, what did I say first? I would just like to state.
Muted. Lisa, you're muted again.
There's a lot of echoing going on.
What?
People can't hear us.
Just tell me when people can hear me, I guess.
Mic on. That's why there's so much feedback. If everybody mutes themselves,
We're gonna have a
everybody
reverb
except
before
for the
we have the
speaker.
Is it better? Okay. Let me collect my thoughts 1 second. I can still hear the feedback, so I'm sorry, but I'll just say that I am in favor. I'll move away from my mic maybe. I am in favor of starting school as normal as possible. I do believe it's in the best interest of the students because that is our job here, to educate students. I think the best possible education they can get is when they're in the classrooms with the teachers. We offer many opportunities here for alternate educations, for our cyber academy,
people can homeschool their children if they so choose. I just think it's in the best interest. And most of the information I've been able to gather to the fact from the CDC, different senators that I've spoken to about, the COVID situation as it is and how it's spread. It's very minimal risk to the students, and it's very minimal risk for them to bring it home, as typically they only contract, if they contract the COVID virus, they're only contracting it at a 25%. It is not that probable that they go back and infect other people necessarily. Coupled with the fact that nationwide we have a 95.5% recovery rate from this this disease, if you want to call it that, this virus. And the conditions of the death rate are much different that we know now. And I'm not going to go into that and waste everybody's time. You can do that research by, talking to hospital executives and stuff like that. But I guess I'll just end it there. Everybody else has other comments and probably maybe agree with me or don't agree with me. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Should I mute myself? Okay.
As a parent and a board member, we all have concerns. And like my concern is just not necessarily the class size or the buses, but the cleaning of the schools, making sure that everything is ready to go, that our teachers are safe, because maybe the students don't have the contraction of disease, but we do have to worry about our teachers, our secretaries, our support staff, everybody's health as well, because we don't know if they're immunocompromised or maybe they have an immunocompromised person at home. So I've been back and forth on what we really should do, because being a mom, my kids miss their friends, they miss their teachers, and my daughter thrives in the classroom, and she struggled with the online school learning. So my hope is that if I do send her back, and if we have to go staggered days, there's more structured learning than what we used in our emergency situation, because that's exactly what it was. It was an emergency situation. And my hope is that we're going to be much more prepared for more structured classroom training for our teachers and for our students, and that we keep everybody's safety and well-being in mind, because it's not just the illness, it's also the social emotional needs of our students that we have to consider, because isolating them from their friends is also hard too. So I want to make sure that we're looking at the full picture when we make our decision.
Thank you. Rebecca, anybody on the board who's not here want to make a statement?
I just want to give my comments on, I think we should open the schools as close as possible to being normal. There's a number of reasons for that. Students really do learn much better in the classroom than remote learning. So, and basically from what I gathered, going through some of the literature and all, the estimate of the average student could fall 7 months behind, with Black and Spanish falling more than that if we do online teaching. So I really believe, if at all possible, we should do in-class teaching. And it's also for mental health, for family economics. Like a lot of these people have to work. I know people say, well, why? Well, there's a lot of two-family jobs out there, and we can't have the parents staying home, not having a salary. The extra job unemployment is going to end shortly. The cost of childcare, these are all economic factors that come into play. Also for this family stability, we don't know what's going on in the families. When kids come to school, you'll know if there's abuse, or you'll have a better chance of finding out if there's abuse and all.
I'm on my meeting.
The other is that equalize the potential of the learning of all kids going to school, because with the online learning, some kids don't have the equipment nor the internet and those type of things. So I'm really for the going back to school full time. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Damari or Sharon or Deborah, anything from you?
Yeah, I'll share, Rich. Thank you. This is Damari. I appreciate everybody's comments. I agree with some of it. I don't agree with other things. I think I want us to be mindful of the various family dynamics and the situations, but I also want us to be careful of throwing out statistics in this conversation that are not backed by research that we haven't looked at together, et cetera. Not all kids thrive in the classroom. Not all kids do bad virtually. My kids personally, like Rebecca's, do well in the classroom, but we have to be mindful. We also have a strong cyber program within our own school district. There are pros and cons to every circumstance that we look at. I also don't want to undermine the concerns that people have as individuals in terms of the precautions around health. I have concerns. My own kids who are 10 years old have expressed concerns and fear. And so when we make comments, I just do want us to differentiate that they're very personal comments as individuals, and not necessarily grounded on the research, and that even that we're spouting information unless everybody has access to the report and we know that it's credible, it's not the fact. I'm open to this discussion, to hearing. I know that I've read a lot. I hope we all have, and are ready to compromise in ways that will help our students to meet those different diverse needs. I do want to point out that for special needs students where we do have additional concerns, I represent our school district on the IU, the Colonial IU 20, and there is a public board meeting on July 29th. And I invite parents of students with special needs to attend that meeting as well, so that they're informed to those decisions that are going to be made for their students.
Thank you, Damari. Sharon, Debbie?
I'm here. I have multiple thoughts about returning to school, and the number one opportunity is the safety of the children. Can we guarantee that the students will be safe? I'm thinking about just the demographics, the age of our students, and they're prone to socialization. I think we've all learned over the last 4 months that we need to remain distant. And I'm not sure that they'll be compliant. And I'm not sure how we regulate that. And I have mixed feelings. I in my heart of hearts would love for the children to go back. But I'm not sure that we can guarantee, and I know we can't guarantee just it's the world right now. I'm really torn on this decision, so I'm just so open to having this communication. One thing that we do have to our advantage is we have multiple modes of providing education through the Cyber Academy and distance learning. And I'm also concerned about our teachers, how this could impact their lives if we went to multiple shifts or multiple days. And although our students aren't in a demographic where, many youth are passing as a result of this, but we do have a lot of mature teachers and administration and in our buildings. And there could be, quite a few pre-existing conditions. How do we jumpstart? And I guess my second question is, how do we start it? And how do we stop it if it's an emergency? Like, what is that plan to say, you know what? We've had 20 cases in the last week. What is that magic number that says, you know what, it's no longer comfortable from a student and a parent perspective and faculty administration's perspective?
Thank you, Sharon. Deborah?
I have to agree both with Mary and with Sharon. I do want to see us send our students back as normal as possible, but I believe that the normal will be the new normal of options for students to attend school. So there is that safety factor. From reading all of the feedback from parents, I see that it's just over 50% would say have full day school and somehow make it so our children are safe. I don't think 3 feet separation is going to be enough. I think that we have to look at maybe grab and go lunch where they eat in one place. And I think that although they say masks, will we accept also a face shield as an acceptable covering, which would be far more convenient for many students or teachers and would help the teachers. And you're right, we do have a lot of teachers who may have some type of compromise or underlying issue. They're the ones that we're going to lose and who are going to become ill, as well as our support staff and our other staff. So that's where I am.
Thank you, Debbie. Wayne or George? Wayne or Larry?
Yeah, Rich.
No, wait. They're gonna go. You've already went. They're gonna go now.
I didn't hear you.
They're gonna go because you already went.
Oh, okay.
George? Wayne? Sorry, keep on. Wait, Larry? No? Okay. I will say that this decision is a big decision, and we're not making it tonight, but we're having a lot of discussions this evening. We're going to be hearing from you as well. I am certain that whatever decision we make, there's going to be a good number of people who are not in favor of that decision or disagree with it. There's no perfect decision that we can come up with or plan that we can come up with that is going to please maybe even the majority of folks that we are going to work. It's going to affect our teachers. It's going to affect our support staff, our bus drivers, our parents, our students. We recognize that. And there's going to be a lot of consternation, I would say, in that we're going to be wringing our hands and everyone else is going to be looking to us for answers. And we're not going to be able to provide the perfect answer. But with that said, our job is to make the best decision that we can right now and proceed with an opportunity to provide the best education that we can. As everyone has alluded to, there are options. You have the option for cyber school or blended learning model. So we are in a fortunate position to offer folks who may have concerns about sending their children back to have an option of cyber school, children or families that have concerns of keeping their children home, allowing them to come back to school. The state has made it easy for us in that coverings are required on the face. So we know that is something that we don't have an option on. It is something that's going to be required in all counties in Pennsylvania. Once we go past that, what does that mean for our school? So tonight's job is to really set the guide rails to kind of help the administration understand what we will accept and the parameters we'll accept going forward, so that when we adopt the plan, we have something that we can agree on. At this point, we're going to try to open it up for public to express your opinion. And we're going to do our best to recognize everyone that we can. Recognize also there's about 161-ish people on right now. And we did accept a lot of your comments. We have had them all this afternoon. I will say that we've read all these most of us have read the comments in all these pages, in addition to the online survey that was put out for the schools earlier. So these comments have been read and digested by us, and we are aware of them. But at this time, with 162 people, we have some hands raised. And I expect that the folks up there, you guys are going to permit them in?
Do we need to unmute them, or do you?
All right, so well, we'll start with Keith Carcutt. I'm going to ask to unmute him. Yeah.
Oh, hello. Thank you can you hear me? Okay. You can hear me? Okay. Hi, hey, good evening, board. I just want to offer a suggestion that I've come up with, and offer a suggestion of an idea that I've talked to some teachers. You know, the interaction with teachers and students after talking to some of our teachers is very important, that the kids can be able to see their teachers. And I would like to consider the board to consider that, you know, although the government is requiring face masks, it's within the 6 feet rule to keep the teacher ahead of the students and keep their face being seen by the students for the approach. To allow this to happen easier, I have a proposal, and I want to present to you as an idea of a 1 week on, 1 week off school session, where 1 week children would be in school, half the class would be in school for that week. And then at that same time, the school, I know it would be a cost to this district, but we have the capabilities of putting cameras in each classroom to have the teacher being live to the other half of the kids that are watching from home. And then the following week, that the next group of kids come back, those children that were in the previous week would be watching the same class live from home. It would be a great situation because it would allow our busing to be relaxed, it would allow our lunches to be relaxed, and it would still keep all the kids interactive with each other and keep them in a classroom setting, even though they're not in the classroom. Just an idea, but like I said, my concern with this is having kids wearing face masks all day. I mean, I watched a sporting event. I went and watched our athletic teams practicing. And even though they're not wearing their masks to practice, they're putting their masks in their pockets and they're becoming dirty and they're putting them back on a sweaty. It's just opening up. Our kids may be safe from COVID, but our kids and faculty will get upper respiratory infections from breathing their own toxins in. So it's just, you're all in a very tough situation, and I don't envy you at all, but I know we'll get through this. East Stroudsburg always does. And just my suggestion as an offering, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Keith. We'll move on to Mr. Torres.
Yes, I have a question. I understand that our federal government will be issuing new school guidelines early next week. So I have a feeling this may be a little bit premature in what you may decide on this evening. With that, I agree with Ms. Cullick that face shields are definitely an option for children that may be uncomfortable wearing face masks, and the board really should look into that if it's viable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. I'm going to go next to Mr. Reichel.
Hi, I have two children who are in elementary, a kindergarten and a second grader. And my concern is that they don't learn well from a computer. So at an elementary level, it's very, I feel like this is my second grader, second year kind of going into learning from home, if that's the route that would go. And my concern is that my children are going to get put behind because like Ms. Bear has said earlier, I don't feel that my son last year got the education that he would have gotten if he was face to face. And I feel that we do have an option for those parents who are concerned. They can enroll their child in the Cyber Academy, and maybe as an option, you kind of roll it out there and say, how many parents want to enroll their child in Cyber Academy? And who knows, maybe there's hundreds of kids that end up getting enrolled just from that. That would automatically minimize the number of students who then want to go into school or whose parents want them to go into a classroom setting. So that may alleviate some of the problems now. I don't know if that's something you could do, like put that out there ahead of time and kind of get the numbers, but I'm just concerned about not my kids being like behind academically from going to another year of online learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reichel. I'm going to move next to Ms. Garrett.
Hi. So I was wondering, with a few things, because we do, and it was touched upon, the teachers with the health issues, we absolutely need to consider them. You know, what happens if they don't come back? Are they going to be penalized because they can't enter a classroom because of their health issues? Kids aren't going to leave the masks on all day. They're just not. I know some other districts are doing K-5 in all the schools. So all the elementary, the middle, and the high school, they're utilizing all buildings for K-5. So the classrooms are smaller. That maybe be an option. And then 6-12 are taught at home. And then maybe the teachers can teach through Google Classroom, where they can all learn together and interact together during their block times or their scheduled times that they're supposed to teach. I feel like maybe some of these can be options as well, and we're hitting on all the areas with all the different kids. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Ms. Garrett.
Yep.
We're going to move to Ms. Young.
Hi, I wanted to actually just also interject that if we do have to do a blended or an online learning scenario, I implore the board, the administration, to please encourage our teachers whenever possible to be teaching either live in groups to our students. I know last year was an emergency situation. We've got ample time to plan for this. I think students, if they have to learn from home, can do well enough, even when it's a struggle, because they know it's not meant for everyone, but to be able to have contact with that student, with their friends, even if it is via Google Classroom, Zoom, whatever it happens to be. And I don't envy you for having to make this decision. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Appreciate the comments. Next, we'll recognize Ms. Diaz.
Good evening, everyone. I, again, just thank you for all of your work with everything you've done between last year and the difficult decisions ahead of you. I do want to say that I agree with Mr. Reichel in the sense where, you know, I have children in different age groups, and, you know, my youngest is in elementary and he did struggle with the online learning. I do feel that he fell behind academically. I mean, while he did well and completed all of the work, I think that the work that was assigned during that time was, if you will, busy work. I mean, there's times where he said, I learned this in kindergarten, Mom, and he was in first grade, now going into second. And at the end of the year, it really, really hit me when we were preparing a thank you card for his teacher that we were going to drop off at the school when we picked up his belongings. And when I asked him to, you know, write her name, write his name, it hit me how much he regressed in handwriting alone. I know it sounds like something simple, but just asking my 7-year-old who had been a rock star with handwriting by the middle of first grade was now, you know, regressing in that. It really did hit me. I mean, I have my older ones who did well with the online learning. I think the middle and high school programs were a little bit more structured, but I don't think that it can replace the in the classroom learning. So difficult decisions ahead for sure. I think all parents, for the most part, are expecting some sort of adjustments, whether they be staggered schedules or alternating, you know, online and in home. But if any portion of that is at home, then I would like to see something more structured in place. Or like one of the board members mentioned, you know, what's our magic number? I mean, we have to expect that at some point, if things get bad, we are going to have to revert back to on home and just be prepared for that and not caught off guard like last year. But I really do think that we have to keep in mind the kids' progression, you know, and not regression. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz. I'm going to recognize next Ms. Bookhart Thomas.
Thank you. I'm assuming you meant Thomas Brunswick, and that's me. Yes, you're real there. See results in the flu. Thank you. My son is in the Colonial IU 20 program. He's in the Autistic Support Program, and admittedly, he did much better with the remote learning than he did with in school because there was more attention given to him because obviously we were there. The problem is that I work in New York City. And I was only home because New York City was on such a lockdown. And so I'm concerned, especially for the special needs children, that any change when their mainstay in the autistic support is that it's consistent. And so if you're going to do a blended learning, that's totally not going to work for a special needs child that needs to know every day, every minute what's going to happen. That being said, again, remote learning was wonderful because we were able to supplement it. One of the other concerns that I have is that the district has wonderful things in their Sapphire and in their Clever portal. However, as soon as school ended, a lot of those supports were gone. So whereas I'm trying to help him to catch up what he might have regressed on, those things were taken away. So one of the things I would like for you to consider is that if you're going to have online supports, that they're open also during the summer. That's one thing I want to throw in. But my concern is that for the special needs child, if you make any major change to, even with the week on, week off that Mr. Carker mentioned, they can't balance that. So I'm concerned about the special needs children not being able to have consistency.
Thank you very much. I'm next going to recognize Renee Bookhart Thomas.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, I'm a parent. I'm also on the PTA board. And I have two kids that's
Chill.
one is just going to high school now and one is in high school. And the only concern I have is my daughter loves school. And the only thing I have for her, she has two elements going on with her. She has sickle cell and she has asthma. She wants to go back to school, but I want to know like the solid plan. You know, she didn't like being home. She didn't really like doing online learning. She rather see her teachers, be with her classmates. But the only part is, how can these kids go back to school when we all know?
Oh, how can we fire?
They all gonna hug their friends. They all gonna wants to be around their friends. How can, all this be separated for kids who actually have a high prone element like my daughter? And I can't, sickle cell is very, very a complicated disease. Let me just put it to you out there like that. My child I can die as she goes in a crisis. It can turn from good to worse within a day. On top of with the asthma. So I want to know like the solid plan, what y'all have to be done for the kids. Because online learning, I really didn't like how it was done at all. I don't agree with online learning.
Thank you, Ms. Bookhart Thomas. We're next going to go with Lisa Mazza.
Hello. So our biggest concern was obviously the way the online learning was. I'm not completely opposed to online learning. I've known teachers.
You're muted. We can't hear you.
Can't hear you, hon.
Perfect.
Okay. So my thing is that I'm not opposed to online learning. I think the system that we put out this year was not effective for the children. We have one child was in fourth grade, and we felt that it was a joke to him. He didn't learn anything. We felt the middle school program was a little bit better, but I think that our teachers need to be more involved with the students. So I agree with people who have said that. We were promised a lot that we didn't get, and that's, we already filled out that survey. But my biggest thing is I think that the parents, the teachers need to be on the same page, but I think the teachers need to teach the children, whether it be in the classroom or it be at home. Do I prefer the children in the classroom? Yes. As a nurse, do I understand that there are a lot of safety risks? Yes. But I think there is a way that we can still have the children in school and safe, and give the parents the option whether they want in-home learning, at home cyber learning, or in school. And I heard someone say earlier that if you give the parents the choice first, the ones who decide to do cyber school, it may decrease the amount of children that will be in school. And that's where I find that it would be much better for students, because our children will do much better in school learning. Plus, parents, we work, who are we going to depend on to teach our children while we're at work? And that's a big, and I know it's not the only concern, and obviously we'll find a way to do it. We did it for the last 4 months, but I think it's a lot to put on parents to say, okay, you have to keep your children home. You have to allow them online learning, whether or not they're going to thrive or not. Because I do feel that our 4th grader fell well, he didn't learn anything. And he said that to us, and that's a little heartbreaking. And, 6th grader, it was a little better. But, when we ask a teacher a question, 9 a.m., and we don't get a response till 10 p.m., that's not conducive with children learning. So like I said, I'm okay with cyber school if it's the parent's choice or if we have to do it. But I think it needs to be better than what we had this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mazza. Next, I'm going to recognize Ms. Hilgert.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me? I have my headphones in, so I can't. Yes, okay, good. So I think where my concerns lie, among the 400 million others, would be the planning piece, right? So the crisis planning piece. So we all know that we went into crisis learning this time around. But I think coming into this meeting, I thought there was going to be some actionable points that we were all going to hear. And there for a minute, there was something on the screen, right? Like a 1, 2, 3, kind of some guidelines that I think that maybe we thought that we were going to see, and then that went away, and it kind of turned into the board saying, well, here's what I want, and here's what I want, and here's what I think is going to work, and here's maybe what the CDC is going to tell us, and things that you guys can all kind of look up, and now what are your thoughts? And so both as a mom and as a crisis planner myself, now I'm kind of in a, and so school's happening in what, 7 or so weeks, and what are we doing? And so I think ultimately there needs to be some sort of planning mode beyond, are we sending our kids back to school? But there needs to be a crisis planning mode too, right? Because what we saw is that crisis schooling, and what we're hearing is that crisis schooling doesn't ultimately work. And so what happens when there's a child in middle school who does end up with COVID, and he's got a sibling in high school and a sibling in elementary school, right? And then other kids start to spread, and then a teacher gets it, and we're shutting down again. And crisis schooling doesn't work. And so what I think we need to think about is what's happening, because it can't just be, well, the kids who want to cyber school their parents or their children can cyber school their children. And the kids who want to send their kids to school, send their kids to school. And the board is going to argue about, are we sending them, are we not? And are we going to provide transportation, are we not? There needs to be a plan. And I think we were all coming here tonight thinking there was going to be, it's going to be A, it's going to be B, and not, well, the board is still talking about it and what do parents want? Because we sent out a survey weeks ago about what we want. So I think there really needs to be, not only are we going back to school, are we not, but what is it going to look like? And then when that falls apart, here's what our backup plan is going to be, because we know school falls apart and we need a backup plan for our tiny humans and the educators that provide for them 8+ hours a day. So that's it. I'm done. I'm off of my soapbox now, but it really was a soapbox. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hilgert. And I just want to put out there that we do have a couple of items that we need to address tonight that will be giving the guide rails for the plan. Once we get past that plan, there is a health and safety plan there are other plans that fall within that. And the administration will be working on those and releasing them to the public when they're available. Next, I'm going to address, request Michelle Hiller. I'm going to unmute her.
Hi, I'd just like to start off and say that with the whole crisis situation, I think the school district handled it the best that they possibly could with everything that happens. My biggest concern is definitely sending the kids back in some form to school for numerous reasons. I definitely agree with a lot of the different comments. I think parents should be able to have that decision to send them back or not. I also wanted to say that I think, I think the whole thing is complicated. And I think the bigger picture, I agree with the speaker before too, about having the crisis plan. And I also think that as a parent, it would be helpful too, if we had a deadline of when we know what the school is going to be doing, just so that we can plan as working parents and also plan and help inform our children of what's going to happen in the new school year. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that as far as the risk going back to school, just like the risk of every day that we take even living, we can't guarantee everybody's safety 100%. And I also think that we need to let our, do the basic stuff with the children and teach them, to be safe with washing their hands and everything else that they would do normally to protect themselves on an everyday basis. But yeah, so I think I also agree. My biggest thing was I was coming to this meeting thinking we will have a plan in place. And now I'm wondering, well, when is that plan going to be in place? When is there a deadline for that so that we as parents can plan to go further? And the one other thing I want to say is that I agree with the live learning because I have high schoolers and also a little one, but the high schoolers, I can't teach the stuff that those teachers teach. I'm not a teacher. And not having that live interaction, I don't think that they really thrived off of that at all. Given the circumstances, they got through it, and I know it was a crisis plan, but I do agree that there should be live online learning if we do have to have a hybrid model. But once again, I just want to thank everybody for having this meeting and just pulling together, because it was a crisis situation and it's a situation no one has been in before. And I just think that everybody did it the best that they possibly could. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hiller. Just for the record, our plan will be voted on the July 20th meeting. So there will be a plan at that meeting for us to present to the community. And we as a board will be voting on that plan on July 20th, which is really just a week and a half, 2 weeks away from now.
Okay, great. That's great to hear, because I think a lot of parents were wondering well, what are we doing? So that's great. That definitely is helpful. I appreciate that response.
All right. Folks, I don't know if I see anybody else out there. Anybody, any last chance for somebody to raise their hand? Going once, going twice. If I say it fast enough, it'll be it. All right.
What are you doing?
Okay.
There are people raising
their hand.
Are there? I don't.
Have to raise their hand in the thing.
You have to raise your hand in the chat. I don't.
Sure.
All right, there we go. Charlie Rollinson, I'm going to ask to unmute you. Demerit.
Okay. Hi. I'm also a parent, and for me, I think the biggest thing is also the same thing. What is the plan when this all goes wrong? And I know you said a later meeting, but I think honestly, for me, that's the number one priority. I really don't see how anything else can really we can really go forward too far in anything else unless we know how does this work if it all goes wrong. You know what I mean? So I think for me, that's my biggest thing. I think I could get on board with either or. Realistically, the times are the times. We can't change what's happening, and regardless of what the outcome is, we're going to have to get on board regardless. So either way, I can get on board. But knowing how this looks when it goes wrong, I think is probably one of the biggest things in a lot of our minds, because we all have kids. And like one of the women said, I think Miss Rebecca, she said, should this all go wrong, how does it go from 1 to you know, to 10 to 100. How does this work? Do we shut down? Well, like, what do we do? You know, also, while we're on here, I'm aware that this is about the whole going back to school thing. I wanted to ask, because I'm genuinely not aware. If there were other concerns about other things, such as staff misconduct, which I'm sure some of you, if you've been reading comments, you have seen, when do we address that? I understand this is not it, but I'm just asking when and how, you know?
That's a very fair question. And it is a very, we are aware of the issue. Let me say that. And we are having discussions about that, and we will be addressing it. But that's all I can say at this time. And I may have said even too much there. So
I'm not, look, by any means, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, you know what I mean? I understand it's this is kind of a tricky situation for other people involved. I realize that, you know what I mean?
We understand that.
Like I said, it's more just a, how do we proceed? That's all. As long as there's discussions, but I don't know if there are also board meetings in which we can voice our opinions on this too. That's why I asked, because I don't want to, you know, speak out of turn in any of your meetings, but I just want to know which ones do I, you know, which ones do I take?
Thank you, because not everyone's aware of the issue.
I was going to say that school board meetings are always a place. Today is a special meeting, but monthly school are always a place where you're able to come in and voice your opinion. You get 3 minutes on the agenda during public participation. I encourage you and anyone else, not just the upcoming July 20th meeting, but anytime that you have something you'd like to share, to please come in and use your 3 minutes. And if you have others that would like to do that as well, we're here to listen, as well as you have access to our district email addresses. Feel free for anyone that to share thoughts to send an email as well. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your interest in wanting to talk more.
And I will say that email in this case may be more helpful.
Thank you.
Okay.
I did also email. Yes, I emailed the school district, and I think a few people.
We did receive it.
The school district specific.
Yes.
Yes, we got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
All right, thank you. All right. Next, we have Ms. D. Merritt.
Hi, I just want to give a suggestion to the board if they're considering a full schooling. If there are any recent travel of the students, parents, that should be addressed as well, especially to the the affected areas in the country with the COVID. There should be like parameters for return to school. If they had any recent travel overseas, well, they can't travel overseas, but definitely within those affected states, because they might not be quarantined at that time. Just a suggestion to the board, like any recent travel for students, they should not be returning to school until like a 14-day period is over without symptoms.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Those are important. As were all comments this evening. Anyone else out there? Going once, going twice? I see no one.
Can I speak?
Yes, please.
Hi, thank you for letting me on. I just have a concern because my son is high risk, and like many others, we struggled with the edgenuity and being online and everything. He does work better in school. He does have an IEP, but being high risk, he isn't able to wear a mask for more than 8 hours. Seeing as being on a bus, he would have to wear a mask. In school, he would have to wear a mask. Then after school, getting on the bus home, he would have to wear a mask. I just want to know what happens if he does contract something, and then like, let's say he's in a classroom full of 12, 22 students, then what happens if, like, let's say somebody else has COVID, gives it to him or gives it to anybody else in the class? What are we gonna do about that? Are we gonna send everybody home and then go ahead and everybody has to quarantine for 14 days? How are we handling the situation? I am okay with going back as long as they're implementing precautions, but I would prefer staggered days. I know you guys sent out votes last time and I sent it in, and I would prefer either 3 days in, 2 days out, or half days and alternating them. That way the schools are not as packed as what they are usually. So I just want to know what's going on, or what do you guys plan to do in regards to that, in regards to, let's say, like I said, a kid getting sick or a teacher being sick and bringing it on into the classroom, and now you have all these kids, let's say potentially 22 kids. Now 22 kids come home. I have a daughter who's in high school. I have an elderly father. I have my husband. Now we're all, contaminated. We all have to quarantine. What are your thoughts about that? What are we going to do with that?
Thank you for your comments, and those will be, we'll do our best to address that in our health and safety plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have Brandy Wormack. I'm sorry. Bye.
Hi, I have two students, is a high schooler. She did on learning better than at home, better at school than at school. My other daughter has sensory issues and ADHD. She definitely does better at school. My concerns are, what about as a nurse and a mom? What about temperature checks? What about cleanliness? She has to use a sensory room. Is it going to be sanitized? How do we know she's not going to be sharing things and putting them in each other's mouth? How do we know what's going to happen? How can we prepare them? When will we know what to do? Because just now we're starting to prepare them for public alone. And it's a hard issue when you have a special needs child.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. We'll be addressing that as part of the health and safety plan. That's how we clean our buildings and how each room is cleaned and how often, when, those kind of things.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we're going to now move on to the return to work plan. And as you see on the screen now, there are going to be three things that we're going to address today that are going to allow the district to start developing the plan so that we have something to approve on the 20th. At this time, I would accept a motion to direct the administration to allow, and this is where we fill in the blank, number of students in each classroom present to, yeah. Did we? Hold on a second, folks.
Terry Beaumont.
Terry Beaumont, are you out there?
Yes, I am. How you doing?
Thank you.
I'm going to try to balance this. I'm talking from a parent perspective. I have 3 boys in the district, in all the grade levels. As you know, I also work in the district, but I have a son in elementary, I have a son in middle school, and I have a son in high school. I was listening to what people saying, and I'm just throwing some suggestions out there based on what I've seen, being in the district and being in the community and having children in the district. But I'm talking so to try to find a way to make it sensible for us to have learning occur and still keep people safe. And these are just some things that I've thought of, not just by myself, but with others as well. As maybe, and this is just a suggestion. Maybe we look at trying to keep 6th through 12th grade students home. And I only say that and have elementary students actually come in. And I only say that because from my experience, I found that my middle school child and my high school child were a little bit more self-sufficient and independent when it came to online learning, where my elementary kid had some troubles because navigating through the cyber system and needed that assistance. So with that being said, it would using Google Classroom for 6th to 12th grade students, maybe they when we went on to the learn from home, there was no set time for students to get on. So that was kind of a challenge, being someone who worked in the school district and being someone as a parent, because I would, as a parent, I was trying to set up my time for my kids. And as an administrator, I was also getting emails from kids at almost, at 10 p.m. at night after they finished playing Fortnite or something like that. So, like it was that trying to balance those things, was a challenge. But in saying that, so I think, people are looking for something concrete, maybe it's 6th to 12th grade. We have a set time where they have to be on from 7 to 10:40, and the teachers in Google Classroom, and they're showing up on Google Classroom. And then we set up, maybe 2, what we call like drop-in days on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where a bus run comes, where kids can make appointments to come in and see their teacher. It limits numbers in the buildings. We can actually have K through 5, classes or buildings spread out between the district, and use a lot of the classrooms in these buildings. And those drop-in days for high school students and middle school students could go right through the cyber academy, so that limits interactions, and that keeps people away from each other. And we can design something where it's still similar to that block scheduling for our high school students and somewhat for our middle school students, where it's a set time, and now we can kind of hold them accountable for it. And I know that could be a challenge for parents, and and them getting to buses and stuff like that. But that's something we could maybe that's something we work out with transportation, where they do a bus run around 10 or 10:20, so that kids can get to the bus and still get to school if they need to get in for drop-in days, or if they're still playing sports, if that's still around, by this time. And also, one woman addressed special needs students. Maybe because of those limited numbers, we select one building in our district that we do have our special needs students, or our students, our life school students, actually being full day. It limits those numbers of interactions with too many people, but they get that assistance, that one-to-one assistance that they need. So I mean, these are some things that I didn't think of all alone by myself. I'm talking from a parent perspective, and I also had the opportunity to be, to talk from the employee perspective as well. But I know people wanted to hear some concrete things or some ideas of what could be possible. So I wanted to put that out there and share that, because I think it was, I think people have been waiting for a while to see what's going on or what we're thinking. And, I feel that as a parent as well. So I wanted to make sure I shared that,
Thank you very much, Karen.
You're welcome.
Okay. Melanie Diaz.
Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to add one quick comment, somewhat piggybacking on the comments that were just made. While I certainly agree with everyone's perspective and opinions, and we all have the same common goal, the only thing I ask, I'm expecting to have to be flexible. The only thing I ask is that for the board to keep in mind that the parents are also going to need some flexibility. I say that because, I'm a single parent. I've got 4 children at home, different grade levels as well. For my older children, attending a class at a specific time, that's not so much of an issue. But if we are in a situation where we're learning virtually, my soon to be second grader, him attending a class during a specific time may not work with me if I have to work virtually. That is a conflict that I did have last year. So a lot of times I was logging off of work. I was fortunate enough to work virtually. I'd log off of work at 6 o'clock and then jump over and become a teacher because he does need a little bit more hand-holding. So if there are set times, I'm certainly in favor. I'm certainly flexible, but I just need options. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dorota? Okay.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My main issue, because I would adjust to in class, in school, or cyber, whatever the decision is, but I would much rather my soon-to-be second grader attend school, of course. I mean, I find that kids thrive in classrooms. He missed his teacher, he missed the stimulation in class, the one-on-one. But my main concern is, just like everybody else, is the face masks. I know that 7, 6, 8-year-olds, they can't keep their hands off each other no matter what you tell them. I know those masks are gonna end up on floors. They're gonna either, change them, show it to their friends. Oh, look at my cool mask, look at this, look at that. And those kids are gonna get more germ spread than ever before. And I'm not just talking about COVID. I'm talking about anything, strep, anything like that. Plus, my child currently is in camp, like a day camp. They just had this implemented where they have to wear masks. My kid, after spending 8 hours at camp, came back literally struggling, sweating. He said he hated wearing a mask. And this is just for fun. He didn't have to think. He didn't have to do anything. This is camp. So I can't imagine kids that young having a mask on all day in school. And I really do want him to go back to school, but can we have maybe some more concrete decisions or suggestions from either parents, teachers, administrators, anybody on how we can solve this problem? People gave some great ideas, great suggestions, but I'm looking for something specific. And I know Governor Wolf or federal government or whatever, they're going to have some sort of recommendations next week. They're more solid, but once again, I wish we had something and more parents. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but in terms of mask wearing, I don't see that happening with kids that young. I really don't. And I just wanted to make that comment. And thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Next, I'll recognize Kimberly Riley.
Yes, good evening. Thanks for hearing me. I'm a teacher in the East Stroudsburg Area School District for 25 years. Never seen anything like this before. I'm hoping if we go back in the fall that the board will be able to provide face shields for all employees in the district. They seem to be better for us than the masks because we need to teach the children with our mouths, and we need to be able to, children need to be able to see our mouths. I think that will be helpful if we plan on going back full-time or even part-time to provide the staff with face shields. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rawlinson, you have a couple moments to add to your comments.
Hi, I just wanted to second that motion for options, because options I think is a very very important thing for parents. So I just wanted to let it be known. I agree to. I don't know if it only needs to be one person saying that they agree or one person bringing something up, but options is definitely huge. Options is huge. I have a 1-year-old, so sometimes his schedule is all over the place. I'm getting it down more now, but options are huge, because if I could schedule it for nap time, way better, And honestly, I have a 4-year-old. So my daughter is actually in Head Start, which goes off of the East Stroudsburg School District. So I know a lot of concerns that everyone has with the face masks. I mean, I have times a million, because my child is 4. So if you're worried about a 6 or a 7-year-old keeping a mask on, I'm definitely having problems with a 4-year-old, and even taking her to the store is an issue. So for the even younger students, I don't know what the plan is supposed to be for them,
Okay. Thank you. All right. Daryl Sabino, you out there?
Yes, thank you, Rich. I couldn't raise my hand, so I had to text people. I am trying to. I see that just today the EPA put out that there's 2 effective sprays against SARS-CoV-2. That's the virus that causes COVID-19, and it's Lysol. So daily things are changing, and the fact that a board member had mentioned, can we have face shields, which is part of the Pennsylvania Department of Education's plan, and has been part of the plan that is put out on pa.gov. And you guys, and nobody read that is shocking to me. The fact that you guys don't even have a plan right now, or even some kind of plans right now, that you're even just making some statements right now, is a little aggravating to me. And usually, you know, I'm the one up here saying, thank you for doing everything you can. This is amazing, but I'm really aggravated right now. You guys should have something going on. It is July. We all knew we were going back to school. We should have something going on. And so these parents shouldn't be up here repeating the same thing over and over and over again, because that's what they're doing. There's so much that the parents don't even understand. We have to wear masks at school. We have to. It's the law. The governor said we have to. So them coming on and saying kids aren't going to wear their masks, they have no choice. They have to wear them. So if we're going back to school, we're going back to school. They have to wear a mask. They can wear a mask shield, like the teacher said that was on before. I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was. Mask shields for the teachers is a great idea. We can tape Google. If you need to keep your child home, then keep your child home, and we can tape the Google Classrooms, but they have to be live. They can't be Edgenuity. We're not learning on Edgenuity. And last year when we were at Edgenuity, that was busy work. That was because we were in crisis, and parents thought that was our cyber school. Well, it really was not. That was busy work just because we were in crisis. So I don't think that everybody's fully understanding what's going on. You know, like this discussion is just a discussion right now. And July 20th at that meeting is when we're going to actually have the answers of what's going to be happening. So there's just so much repeating and aggravations from everybody that it's a little frustrating, and I understand people's frustrations, but we just need some more solid answers right now. So all of the repeating of everything is just getting a little crazy here. We just got to go on to what's going to happen on the July 20th meeting.
Well, thank you for that introduction. That's the next step here. I see, Charlie, that you have your hand up, but we've given you a couple of opportunities now, so unfortunately, we're going to not do that. At this time, I am going to move towards the return to school plan. I see no other hands up out there.
There's one more, Michael.
I do not see it.
Hello?
Michael Potestio, there you are. Okay.
Hi, thanks for calling on me. I just wanted to bring something up quick. I don't want to harp on the same thing that's, you guys have been getting hammered with. I did reach out a few times at the end of this school year, and I spoke with a few people and got a lot of good information. One thing that was a little concerning that was given to me as a message of why we weren't moving more towards the Google Meet, either live or pre-recorded, was there was a number of students that they couldn't reach their parents or their household in order to get the information to them, number one, or there was a certain amount of people who weren't able to, for whatever reason, get online, even though the school was providing the Chromebook and Blue Ridge Cable was helping out with internet. So that was kind of concerning, knowing that so many people were able to have what they need to have online learning, but they were being held back by this small number of people who weren't able to. So I just wanted to make sure that that's going to be brought up in this planning, because it's kind of a big deal. I'm just going to mute it before my daughter starts screaming.
Thank you very much for your comments. Okay. Okay, moving on. We have a motion to direct the administration to allow X number of students in each classroom pursuant to the district's return to school plan. We need to fill in that number and vote on that number.
I think no more than 20 students.
24.
24.
24 plus a because you have the teacher. It actually should be 24 less the number of aides.
That's why I say 20 students in case there's multiple IEPs.
It may be 2 or 3, yeah. So
We're talking about students, right? So we're talking about students.
that's right.
Exactly.
But if you have to take the aides that come to the classes, you'd have to subtract that from the number of teachers, from the number of students. So we're talking 22 would probably be a pretty good number, yeah.
I say 20. That's just me.
Sorry?
Well, I thought we next week to see what the governor puts out is.
I don't think we can wait, and if he puts out lower, we'll get that lower number. So if we put out the number now and it's a lower number, that's what'll happen.
Okay. As long as the public understands that.
Right.
I thought, but I thought the governor's things were recommendations and not mandates. I don't, yeah,
I think the recommendations and possibly the mandates might come down from the federal government at this point after what I read. But who knows?
Who knows?
But we have to make, I thought the option was no more than 25 in a classroom. That was presented to us, so that's the motion I would prefer to make because I believe they've already been working on that option.
Right. And the option 25, makes it so that we can have every class back to the days of right now.
Correct.
If we make it lower than that, or if the governor says something different, then we.
That's the way I understood it.
But I thought it included the teacher too.
Yeah.
Can administration work with 20 persons in the room? And it's not just students, it's persons, right? We want to talk about it as persons, the number of persons, 20 students, 1 instructor, but in some classrooms you have some paraprofessionals. So we really need to take into account persons that will be allowed in the classroom. And what would allow for as close to 6 feet separation as possible. And of course, somebody mentioned it, if a teacher is standing up front, particularly in the older classes, and that person would probably not need a mask or anything else because while they're speaking or teaching up there, they will have 6 feet separation.
Right.
These are all just, but a 20 person plus total class of 18, about right? You leave enough room for a paraprofessional?
Right. And so
Asking the
part of
CDC says 25 persons.
it's her.
Know that 25 persons gives enough space to make parents comfortable. Not every parent, but there are parents who will want that comfort level.
I'm going to have to look at the question to Dr. Riker. What is your best guess that we'll have for folks going to the cyber option only as voluntary?
The best guess of how many will go to cyber voluntarily, is that the question?
Yeah, based on your thinking right now.
The survey that we have been following on cyber has approximately 700 students considering that option.
In addition to what we have currently?
Yes.
So that's a little more than 10% of our students?
Yes.
Okay. So if we typically have about, what, 22?
How about we return to firing Ryan DeLong?
I'm sorry.
Rich, that's just to be clear, not a commitment.
No, it's not a commitment.
Okay,
You're
right.
Right, okay. Oh, please, of course.
The recommendation, that you made to us and presented to us at, I don't know, a couple weeks or something ago for our consideration was a 20.
Yes, the number presented by the CDC was up to 25, including the instructor, which would include other adults that are required in the classroom.
Okay, so when we say if we would approve, for example, 25, that would include, I'm going to reiterate that, everybody.
Right.
Everybody involved in that classroom, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
but on our agenda, it says number of students. So we would have to say, what, 20 students to be safe because of paras and IEPs and the teacher?
I would
Or should we
not-
change the agenda?
Do we change the
persons
agenda?
Rather than students in the classroom?
25 bodies in the classroom.
Right, because our agenda says students, not persons. So is it supposed to say persons rather than students? What are we deciding on then?
Number of persons.
I would say that's a more acceptable way to say it, if that's your desire.
Persons.
What you gonna change?
Thank you.
Persons instead of
Person,
students.
not bodies?
Well.
All right, so right now we have a motion, but we really don't have a motion. We have to decide on a number.
Can I, I'm sorry, Mr.
25
President,
works
can I
for
make a
me.
motion?
You can make a motion?
Can I make a motion to direct the administration to allow up to 25 persons in each classroom in pursuant with the district's return?
So second.
We have a motion and a second to direct the administration to allow up to 25 persons in each classroom pursuant to the district return to school plan. Discussion.
Sorry, the technology.
Did you call for the question?
I have not called for the question. We need to hear from Damari.
Oh, I'm sorry. The technology is so kooky. I just want to know where.
Oh,
we,
you know Phyllis White?
I want to know where we stand
Dick?
in terms of the 6 feet apart with, say, 20 students in the classroom in terms of our classroom sizes.
I really, it's going to be.
That will be the everyday work.
Debbie speaking.
Debbie?
I was just saying, I really think that it's important that somehow we accommodate that portion of it, because there are so many parents who are concerned about making sure that students were separated and had distance.
Yeah, and I don't see how we can do that with 20 students in a classroom.
Well, administration will figure it out, but I would have 20 students and no more than a max of 25, especially in some of the larger classrooms. They should be able to figure it out. There might be some non-traditional classrooms.
Well, the other part is social distancing going to be 3 feet or 6 feet? If it's 3 feet, we're probably in pretty good shape, but that's part of the work. That's probably working out the details. Right now, we're just trying to get the 3 recommendations.
Okay.
Am I right? Am I right, Billy?
Yeah. Part of this is, yeah.
I think this is definitely an opportune time to look for creative spaces within the school. We tend to think of a classroom as a traditional classroom, but there are other spaces that we can utilize and probably use them well, given the situation that we're in.
There are some non-traditional places that we'll find will become now useful.
Yeah. Okay.
Rich, could you repeat what the final decision is?
Fired along.
Opposed?
I didn't hear.
You're on mute here, Rich.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to direct the administration to allow up to 25 persons in each classroom pursuant to the district's return to school plan. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion passes. Second recommendation, to motion the district to direct the administration to allow up to X students to ride in each school bus pursuant to the district's return to school plan.
If we have students per seat, because it's almost impossible, can't create buses out of nothing. Is that a manageable thing?
I say two,
Two per seat.
Yeah, George made the motion.
I said,
Okay, so we have a motion, well, let me say this. George is saying 48, is that the motion?
Yeah, he said he made the motion, right? You make the motion?
I make a motion, yes.
Do we have a second?
I make a motion to direct administration to allow 48 students to ride in each bus to the district's return to school plan.
All right, we have a motion and a second, discussion.
Would it be more beneficial to designate a number of students per seat for some of the buses are different sizes?
It's
Just a
Okay, hold on. So Debbie's asking for us to consider 2 people per seat versus an X number on each bus. Yes.
different sizes. No more than 2.
Okay, sure.
Nope, not at all. So the 48 number, again, this was a recommendation that came from the Department of Health in Bucks County. This would be 2 per seat in our larger buses. Basically, the confusion or what people are referring to sometimes, a few weeks back, the CDC had made some statement about 12 students on a school bus. And the idea was to maintain a 6-foot distance between students while riding the bus. We would not be able to do 12 students on a school bus, and it would take us forever to get all the students to school or even half the students to school. So when you look at a bus configuration and you apply that concept of 12 students to the bus, when you get to the 13th student, you actually have violated the social distancing for 3 of those students. And the challenge is selecting which 3 students now sitting on the bus are not going to be 6 foot in their distance from one another. So there really is limited, if any, distance or any difference between a 13 student on a bus and a 48 students on a bus. It's just a matter, we can, as a district, currently provide all students transportation to school as per our transportation director, using 48 as a number. Or 2 per seat, if you like to say it that way.
I'd like to say 2 per seat.
So George, would you amend your motion or permit the amendment of your motion to allow 2 per seat versus a number of 48 per bus?
How many it is on the bus?
But they're shorter buses too.
It's the same number, yeah.
Oh, it's the same number. It's just-
Yeah, 2 per seat, in case we have
But they're
short
smaller
buses.
buses, bigger
2
buses.
students per seat, yeah.
Okay, so there's a
Small
motion
buses then.
to direct the administration to allow 2 students per seat to ride on each school bus pursuant to the district's return to school plan.
Yes.
So Mary, can you hear me?
Do you need that?
I do hear you, but I have a question. Is there a reason why we're not considering 1 student per seat? Because I just asked about the spacing in the classroom. And so I'm sorry, George, but there are times when you want to say a couple of things, and today I want to say a couple of things, because if we have 48 students on a bus in that small space and they're exposed to one another for that period of time, what's the difference between that and the classroom?
If we do 1 person per seat, we're gonna have an issue with the number of buses and bus drivers and all. Where the 2 people per seat, we're still keeping the distance properly. Now, there may be times when we only have one person, but we're trying to make it so we can do the whole maximum for the school district.
But we can be
That's
creative.
my feeling on it.
We can
I've been in, as Dr. Raker, another one.
done. We can be.
Wait, Demari's still talking. I can't hear you, Demary.
Well, I wasn't done. George responded and I was going to respond and say we can be creative if there are siblings. I have 2 kids. If they're going to take the bus and they sit together, that's different than if there's somebody that doesn't have a sibling. Maybe they should have the right to sit on their own, and we could look over what those plans look like.
This gets us to 2/3 of a bus full. And if we look at a Mart's bus, because I've been given that info from Representative Brown, she's saying that Mart's buses go 75%. So with the mask on. And we know that somehow there's going to have to be some sort of social distancing. But I understand what you're saying, Demary. There may be some parent that identifies their child as someone who has an immunodeficiency or some other underlying factor that might need to be addressed. But if we say the max
tonight, so I don't want us to be married to 48 and not take into consideration what was mentioned tonight.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I think it's also important to consider our enrollment could change as parents consider and have the ability to make choices on behalf of whether their child comes to school or whether they select other options within the district. We might see a lesser need. We won't know that until we provide the plan and parents can make better decisions with the information. But let's keep that also in the forefront of our head as we're thinking things could change drastically.
and that could be if we set a maximum of no more than 2 per seat, then administration can handle the questions or the issues as they come about and the changes. But we have to set something maximum.
I agree with that, Debbie, that if we keep a maximum, we can adjust it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to make sure we're not married to it being 48. So if we say the maximum 48, then I think that's a good compromise to be able to leave flexibility as needed.
I think Demary, if we can say a maximum of 2 per seat.
Yeah, maximum of 2 per seat based on the size of the seat. Yeah, based on the size of the bus you talked about. Okay.
Just so we give them flexibility because there may be the need to do those things.
Yes, okay.
I just want to make it known to the public that public participation is over and now we are in deliberation. And so we will not be recognizing anyone for discussion. So I hear a motion to direct the administration to allow 2 per seat to arrive each school bus pursuant to the district's return to school plan. We have a motion.
Rich, can you just adjust that to say maximum of 2 per seat?
Maximum.
Yes, thank you.
Maximum, 2 per seat. Okay. So we have motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, thank you. Finally, we need a motion to direct the administration to as follows concerning school day and class scheduling pursuant to the district's return to school plan. And perhaps Dr. Reichman could give us some insight onto what kind of direction they would like for this.
So based on the decision and the direction on the previous 2 motions, the last item here is to determine if during the green phase, the district will be returning all students to school on the 31st of August. And if so, then what additional direction would the board like the administration to consider if and when the 2 counties, Monroe and Pike County, were to go to a yellow phase? So The first part of that is we are in a green phase. Your first two directives allow you to permit all students to return to school on August 31st. So we just need to know your guidance on if that's your direction or if you would like the school year to begin with an alternating day schedule for our families.
August 31st. For all students to return August 31st. Is that what I'm saying? Yes.
Billy, just before, yeah, well,
Well, first and second.
I'll second it, then we can do questions.
Okay, so I hear a motion to return all students on August 31st to the school district for learning. I have a second from George. Discussion.
Yeah, my question is, will the part on wearing masks on the bus, will that be discussed in this part, or do we worry about when we put the whole plan
It's not a
together?
discussion, they wear a mask.
They wear a mask.
Well, no, I'm saying let's say that's what it is right now.
It's the
Yeah.
state law. Yeah.
But if we had the option to or not to, then we'd have to make a decision.
Then we need to make a decision.
So would that be done in the implementation portion, or would that be done in this portion?
That will be done at the launching.
What?
It'll be done at the launching. Once that happens, then we have to talk about
That-
it. But as of right now, that's not-
As of right now, I understand, but I'm just still saying,
Right.
so we don't have to address that now.
If I could just clarify something there, just so everyone's clear on that. The new order from the Secretary of Health is that masks would be worn. However, if a student presents a medical condition that does not permit them to wear a mask, they are not required to do so. And the district is not required to further investigate what that condition may be. And that would be part of our health and safety plan. So that would be part of our discussion as you would look to approve that plan on the 20th. But the current guidance from the Secretary of Health does have some conditions that would not require students to wear masks under those conditions.
So then we require them to wear a face shield.
No.
Neither mask or face shield. I mean, both would apply in that situation. So whether they wear a mask or a face shield, we can't require any student that presents a note regarding a medical condition under the current guidance to wear masks.
These are Americans with Disabilities Act rules. It's not something that even the governor can make a change on. Those are federal laws that we have to be aware of and abide by.
Right, but under the current guidance, the district is required to mandate those masks unless one of the exceptions listed in the secretary's orders would be met.
I have a question in regards to the school day and scheduling. Could we have an option for if we go back every day, but can we have the teacher do a live Google Classroom too? So if kids at the time maybe can't go back because of a health issue, maybe strep throat or whatever, and they're absent, can the teacher do Google Classroom while she's teaching or he's teaching so the students can still log in at 7:45 in the morning or 9 o'clock whenever their day starts and still follow their normal schedule as if they were there?
That's a great question. That is a discussion we will be engaged in with the union to ensure if that is a direction they would support the district going in.
And Billy, is that also part of the implementation of the plan, but not just.
And that would help if we went yellow as well. If we happen to go yellow, there would be no disruption because they would already be recording and teaching their class via Google Classroom every day. So if I was, teaching the class, I would put my computer on and I'd be at my desk or my Apple computer like this would see me and I'd be able to teach the class and it would record so then the students can go back in and review it as well. I personally would like to see that.
That would also be nice if the kids were sick, for any type of sickness. They could do the classroom at home, but that's a subject for another day, I would think.
I just wanted to mention that that's exactly what's occurring in higher education. So it's multimodal education occurring.
Jerome, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
I hear you.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that's exactly what's occurring in higher education. There are multiple modes of learning going on. So every teaching experience is being taped. Because if you think there's international students, there's so many other ramifications and time zones, but they still are required to get the lesson. So we're, as the teachers facilitating, also it's being taped. It's being videotaped. So that's something to think about. I know it could be resource intensive, depending on the audience, but it would be a great option.
I agree.
A great option.
One of the things I think is really important and is allowing enough time for recess, allowing the kids to get outside as much as possible, trying to have class times outside until the weather really turns not conducive to it, but getting outside as much as possible. So.
Rich, I do have a quick comment.
Go ahead. Mary?
Yeah, I have a
Do
quick
we make the motion for the third?
Mary has a comment.
Thank you. Just in relation to the special circumstances and conditions, those students that cannot wear a mask due to ADA, if they're riding the bus, those are the ones particularly that should sit with by themselves in a row. So those are the kind of considerations that I want us to stay open to.
Yes, okay. All right, so we have a motion, second. Any other discussion? So the motion to direct administration as follows: concerning school day and class scheduling pursuant to director's return to school plan to all students starting August 31 for full day school.
Rich, I know I'm so out of order. I could not hear the motion, and I'm hoping that we're very gingerly on this one regarding the yellow zone. Can you repeat the motion? And I know you already have a first and second. I just want to make sure I hear it correctly.
Just so we're clear, Dr. This motion is only if we are in green zone, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so when in green zone, or green phase, whatever it's called, we are directing the administration as follows: concerning school day and class scheduling pursuant to the director's return to school plan that will permit all students effective August 31 to have full day school.
Thank you.
She heard it, I think.
Yes, she said.
I think so. Okay, so we have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Google Classroom.
Okay, and with Google Classroom, we're gonna have to work that one out.
It is.
It is with Google Classroom. Thank you.
Okay, with Google Classroom. Okay. Any other business that regards this?
Rich, I would just again to reiterate for the board's consideration, that motion, as you stated, will occur as long as both counties are in green. The health and safety plan, we will present a suggestion, I'll say it that way, not necessarily a recommendation for the board's consideration as to whether you would like that instructional plan to look different, such as an alternating day, if and when the counties would move from green to yellow. So that will be included as part of the health and safety plan. So if board members have some ideas related to that in terms of whether you want to do that, you don't have to, it's not required, there's no requirement such as that. You can allow the district to continue to operate as it was under a green phase. But we would make that as a potential option for the board to consider when you're adopting the health and safety plan.
It would be my recommendation that if we go to a yellow phase, that we have an alternate plan and then we articulate that plan so that we are aware of what the plan is when we go to that phase. And it's not a when, it's an if. It's
Yeah, I agree. I think that's important for our families to know if we're going to move to an alternating day during the yellow phase. That obviously on the 20th, that would be a decision the board will make in order to ensure our families are aware of that.
And we may want to also reach out to families and now or during the green phase, to identify which families need to be grouped together or which people grouped together so that if you know, high school student with the elementary student in the same household, that they're home at the same time so they can take care of their duties at home.
I just wanted to make a comment.
Absolutely honor those needs.
Sharon, yes?
I'm sorry, no, I think that's an important, what Dr. Riker just brought up, so that we can clearly delineate. If things change and we need to flip from yellow to green, we need to have alternate options. So let's consider that in our proposal as we move forward, just clearly being able to give instructions, because I think the more parents know and teachers and the students, the better off we'll be if something should just flip and we just don't know that.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else for the good of the organization? All right, to our public, we thank you for participating with us this evening and for all your comments and feedback. We hope this works well.
What about DeLong?
Meeting is adjourned. Now, Sharon and Deborah and Demary.
Are you done with public contributions?
To reconvene. Yes.
Mr. Boras, another invite.
Yes.
Yeah, you're gonna send another invite? Okay.